Hello, friends, and welcome to the show. So, I don't understand why Democrats can't understand the meaning of words. Why are you going to tell me that we're going to permanently ban something, and then reporters are going to sugarcoat it and say, oh, well, it's going to be a pause or it's going to be temporary? No, it's a permanent, indefinite lockdown or indefinite suspension of an activity. Do not lie to me and tell me it is temporary. So here's a tweet from Abigail Marone. There's a difference between indefinite and temporary, and their jobs have already been affected. Joshua Siegel basically put this in a story. President Biden issued an executive order on January 27th that mandates a pause on new oil and gas leasing on federal lands, onshore and offshore, to the extent consistent with applicable law, while a comprehensive review of oil and gas permitting and leasing is conducted by the Interior Department. There is no time limit on the review, which means the president's moratorium on new leasing is indefinite. So you can't say, oh, well, it's going to be a pause. Well, it's an indefinite pause. So that means you ban it. So there is a difference. Abigail is well aware of this. This is basically saying, well, it's just a indefinite pause. Just say you're banning it. Just say it's not possible to do it anymore. It'll be easier for people to swallow. This sort of doublespeak, this sort of gaslighting done by the mainstream media is what's causing a lot of independent thinkers to bash their head up against the wall going, I see, I hear, I feel what's going on. But you're telling me that it's rain. You're peeing on me and telling me it's raining. I'm watching you pee on me and you're telling me it's raining. I'm smelling the pee and you're just telling me it's rain. No, don't. Their words have meanings. And please, for the love of God, please just tell me the truth. If it is a ban on whatever you want to say it is, mineral deposit mining, natural gas, fracking on federal lands. Don't tell me it's a pause. Don't tell me it's an indefinite pause. Just say you're banning it outright until you change your mind. It's much easier pill to swallow. It would be a much easier pill to swallow if you just be honest with me. Let's jump over to Jennifer Pro Reality Rubin. GOP evidenced by celebration of the Confederacy with the embodiment of anti-union sentiment thrives when its base feels animosity towards elites. Example, the urbanites, experts, civil rights activists. Sorry, civil rights activists are not elites. I'm just going to put that there. A civil rights activist is not an elite person by its very definition. Yeah, argue with me, change my mind on that, right? And is convinced the rest of the country has contempt for them. Well, the rest of the country does have contempt for the GOP because they wish for people to have the right of free speech. And, well, I mean, maybe not all the GOP, but I'd say the populist left and the right both agree that free speech is extremely important. And this whole cancel culture thing is very dangerous. It just happens to be that the current rifle scope is on the populist right. And they're trying to neuter and castrate the populist right because they're afraid of it. It challenged the establishment. It won in 2016, and the only way to keep someone like Trump from becoming president again is to ensure that it never happens again, to ensure that no one is allowed to speak. If you speak anything other than what the establishment tells you to speak, you are spreading misinformation. If you're spreading misinformation, you need to be re-educated because you obviously are a threat. You obviously are a domestic terrorist. You obviously are insert bad word there. And that's bananas. But I will say civil rights activists are not elites. By its very definition, you cannot be a billionaire civil rights activist. I'm sorry, because the oppression within your community, even if you are part of that, the oppressed minority, right? So you can't be a good civil rights activist if you're a billionaire because you don't have that lived experience of being oppressed. Again, change my mind. That's going to be a hot take, and I know that might come back and bite me at some point, but I will say that, sorry, if you're a billionaire and you're saying, or you're a white millionaire saying that, oh, well, this, that, or sorry, Yes, you may have had struggles, but you've had the struggles of a millionaire. You are not necessarily a civil rights activist unless you are pushing for the civil rights of millionaires or billionaires. Sorry, you don't understand my lived experience from having been in the military for 10 years, having dealt with racists in the military, having dealt with poor medical treatment in the military, being treated just like garbage for nearly 10 years while in the army. You have no idea about my lived experiences if you've never lived in experiences similar to mine. So, civil rights activists are not the elite. The best civil rights activists, in my opinion, are just normal people who happen to be charismatic, who happen to um, basically draw attention to an important topic, but have that charismatic just magnetism, right? It draws people in, it creates a movement. That's why people like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King were just so popular. They weren't anybody special other than their charisma, their magnetism, and their message, but they weren't just obscenely rich. They weren't special because they were famous. They were famous because they were special. And there's a big difference there, in my opinion. Let's jump over to the Washington Post. The first migrant facility for children opens under Biden. First, dozens of migrant teens arrived Monday at a federal government facility that stayed open for only a month in 2019. And in that month of 2019, Kamala Harris says the Trump administration is committing human rights abuses while visiting the detention center. It is the very same detention center that the Biden administration is now opening. So that's right. The Biden administration is now committing human rights abuses, friends. And what? I guess it's okay because you feel better about it. Joe Biden makes you feel better as a person. It makes us feel better as a country. So it's okay that we throw brown children in cages, friends. It doesn't matter anymore because you feel good about it. You couldn't feel good about the orange man throwing brown people in cages because the orange man hurt your feelings. But since Uncle Joe, while he sniffs you while grabbing your shoulders, just makes you feel so good, it gives you the goosebumps inside, it makes you feel okay that brown children are in cages for longer than the 3 days they're supposed to be in them. Of course, I say that jokingly. Joe Biden is a piece of garbage. So is Kamala Harris. They are so fake. If they truly thought it was a human rights abuse, then why open the same facility that you said abused their human rights? It doesn't make any sense. Let's jump over to the Washington Post article. If I can get it to open. There we go. Nope, that's not it. 1 second. I'm so sorry. Boom, there it is. Found it. The Washington Post. CARRIZO Springs, Texas. Dozens of migrant teens boarded vans Monday for the trip down a dusty road to a former man camp for oil field workers. That sounds very regressive in the words being used there. The first migrant child facility opened under the Biden administration. The emergency facility, a vestige of the Trump administration that was open for only a month in the summer of 2019, is being reactivated to hold up to 700 children ages 13 to 17. So we're going to jail 700 children from the ages of 13 to 17 and throw them in cages. Government officials say the camp is needed because facilities for migrant children have had to cut capacity by nearly half because of COVID-19. But immigrant lawyers and advocates question why the Biden administration would choose to reopen a Trump-era facility that was the source of protest and controversy. From the tent city in Tornillo, Texas, to a sprawling for-profit facility in Homestead, Florida, emergency shelters have been criticized by advocates for immigrants, lawyers, and human rights activists over their conditions, cost, and lack of transparency in their operation. It's unnecessary, it's costly, and it goes absolutely against everything President Biden promised he was going to do, said Linda Brand Miller, a San Antonio-based immigration lawyer who represents unaccompanied minors. It's a step backwards. It's what it is what it is. It's a huge step backwards. During the campaign, Biden pledged to undo former President Donald Trump's hardline immigration policies. In his first month in office, Biden signed several executive orders reversing many of those policies. Last week, he and House Democrats introduced a plan that would provide a path to citizenship for 11, I was going to say 100 million, 11 million undocumented immigrants. The administration also reversed some of Trump's expulsion practices by accepting unaccompanied children into the country, a change that also is contributing to an increase of minors in government facilities, officials said. So, well, there's your problem. You have limited capacity due to COVID-19, yet you are inviting more children to enter the country. So what are you forced to do? You're forced to open up those human rights abuse camps and throw kids in there. But it's okay because those kids are brown. They look like me, or they look like my wife, or they look like my daughter. My wife is from Mexico. My wife is a Mexican national. My daughter is either how you would cut it, either a third generation American or a first generation American, depending on which parent you are referring to. Yet it's okay because Biden told you it'll be okay. It's okay, guys. It'll be okay. No, it's bullshit. Sorry, it is. It's bananas that people are okay with this, and the spin being done by Democrats is preposterous. And guess what, Democrats? You voted for this guy. You voted for the guy who created the cages. You voted for the guy who said if you didn't vote for him, then you ain't black. That Barack Obama was the first articulate, oh my God, I'm not even articulate and clean black man ever. You voted for the guy who said that. You voted for the guy who said he did not want his kids to go attend school in the racial jungle due to integration. You voted for that individual. You voted for Biden, who was the creator of the school to prison pipeline. And yet you're surprised when he throws brown kids in cages. He is single-handedly responsible for brown and black kids being thrown in cages for the past 30 years. This is nothing new. You voted for this. If you voted for Joe Biden, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you voted for brown kids to be thrown in cages, because if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris has done anything in their career, have done nothing else. They've done nothing else except for throwing black and brown men in prison and throwing away the key. Basically locking them away and throwing away the key. That's exactly what they've done. Kamala Harris did it in California when she suppressed evidence that would exonerate death row inmates who happened to be black. And you know why? So she could use them as prison labor. She did not want them to be out of jail because, and that's also why she denied parole for black and brown inmates, so she can use them to fight forest fires. So you're surprised that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are throwing brown kids in private migrant facilities? No, don't act surprised, because guess what? People have been telling you this for months and for years and for decades, that Joe Biden is a horrible human being. Tulsi Gabbard fell on the sword to let the American people know that Kamala Harris is a horrible human being and who's committed her own human rights abuses, yet Tulsi Gabbard is said to be a conservative amongst Democrats. No, she is an old school Democrat. You would say she would be a classical liberal. By the most, like, if you were to look at her on the scope, I would peg her as like a classical liberal. But the Overton window has shifted so far to the left that even if you are a center-left person like Tim Pool or Tulsi Gabbard or a lot of these just classical liberal, I even think that David, I can't think of his last name. He's famous podcaster, whatever, but even he's center left, but he's considered far right now by today's standards because it's just gotten so woke. If you ain't woke, you are just a right-wing fascistic dictator, and that's super dangerous. So remember, friends, if you voted for Joe Biden, you voted to throw more kids in cages. I hope you're happy, because guess what? Trump only did it for a month. Biden will most likely be doing this until the end of the year. So if you voted for Biden, you voted for kids to be thrown in cages. So if you liked the episode, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please go to nonsensejuliet.com, have a look around. And if you like what you see and you like what you hear and you want to contribute to the show, there is a donate link on the website, and you'll find crypto and fiat currency links to help us out. Every little bit helps, as we're independent and wish to stay that way. So see you all tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.